I am Ambassador Dr. Arikana Chihombori. I am the founder and president of African Diaspora Development Institute, the organization that's opening the doors for the children of Africa, descendants of the formerly enslaved, to come home, with the gateway being Burkina Faso. Ouagadougou, here we come. We're coming here because the journey of over 400 years must be completed. When the children of Africa were taken out of Africa as slaves, all they ever wanted to do was to go back home to Africa. For over 400 years, this wrong is yet to be righted. Well, today
we are going to be talking about this trip that ADDI made to Burkina Faso. What happened, who they got a chance to speak to, who they heard from, and what the next steps are. I have a special guest today. She was on the live stream just a couple of months ago talking about how much she had done in the 4 short months after coming to Sierra Leone for the first time, I think if I'm not mistaken, getting things off the ground and getting things going. So we're going to talk to her about what she's done in Sierra Leone and also this ADDI trip to Burkina Faso. So before we get into that, I want to do a quick introduction, make sure everybody is aware of who we are and what we do. So this live stream is every Monday. It's called Pan-African Perspectives, where we dive into the real life experiences of visiting Africa, moving to the continent of Africa, and investing in African ventures, along with buying land. Of course, all with the ultimate goal of getting Africa back to its rightful place on the world stage. So our mission is to support independent Africa and empower African people on the continent or in the diaspora. I'm your host, Joe Hatagwa, the founder of Authentic African, a platform that's meant to help people do 1 of 3 things: visit, move, and invest on the continent. From time to time, I'll be telling my story as I'm building a house in Sierra Leone, have citizenship in Sierra Leone, residency in Ghana, and what that looks like for me, and also the stories of others who are having similar journeys. And we'll hear from them at the beginning of their journeys and along the way so that you guys can all make informed decisions. With that, I want to bring on Ursula first, and we have other guests as well that will be joining us. But I do want to have her come on and give us a little bit of an update with regards to what she's been doing in Sierra Leone. And it's relevant because we're talking about residency and citizenship and what people are doing on the continent. So we want to start there, and then we will jump into this ADDI trip as more people join the live stream. So without further ado, Ursula Garrett, thank you for joining on such short notice.
Oh, you're so very welcome. I'm happy to be back.
Absolutely. And I was super impressed by your story. You know, look, we talk a lot about people getting citizenship or people coming for these trips to the continent. Mm-hmm. Sierra Leone is a challenging country for a couple of different reasons. And but it's, of course, it's many people's gateway into getting citizenship on the continent. I, of course, am building land there. I live there. I am of the soil. My parents were both born and raised there. And I go back and forth often. Since 2017, I've been there twice a year, every year, and also in other years more than that. And I spend at least 3 months a year now in Sierra Leone. And, you know, all that time I've been there, I have not accomplished as much as you have in the short amount of time that you've been going there. So I do want to talk a little bit about the Empower Sierra Leone Foundation, where we were when we last spoke, which is probably about 4 months ago or 5 months ago, something to that effect, and where you are now. And then we'll get into the ADDI trip that you were just on to Burkina Faso. And I do want to mention that before we spoke, you told me that you had visited a number of different countries on the continent, and you had also had other ventures in other countries as well. So maybe we can start with a little bit of that background so people are aware of who you are and why they should be listening to you. And then we'll get into the Empower Sierra Leone Foundation and then ADDI. So can we do a little bit of your background really quickly if possible?
Yes, yes. So I run a CPA firm in the States where I specialize in taxes. And once I started visiting the continent and started investing in here, I started to specialize in international taxes. Um, and then when I did I went through African ancestry and it traced my maternal ancestry back to the Timne people in Sierra Leone. And so then I had to get here. And, their program has kind of changed in getting citizenship here. It's changed over the last few years. First, in all honesty, I think it's been at least 2 years since they've given citizenship. And so I came, and it was about 40 of us that came last year in 2024 for citizenship. And we got here and we never heard one word from the government. It was basically, yeah, no, we're not, you're going to have to come back twice.
Right.
And we kind of waited all year. And about mid-year, they said, okay, here are the dates. And they gave us dates when the program was going to happen for us to come back for the second time. And just a few weeks ago, they basically said, nah, not going to happen. We're not given it. And there's been no real explanation. There's been one excuse after another, but nobody's ever really said, this is why it's not happening. And so a lot of people had already bought tickets based on the dates that the government issued. Well, I said the government, the department it went through, I think it's Monuments and Relics. They issued, they gave these dates. Here are the dates for December, here are the dates for April. And like I said, a few weeks ago, they just said no. But for me, I'm not going to get sidelined by that, because once I connected with Sierra Leone, to me, citizenship, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It does not stop my mission. So when I came here for the first time last November, and I came with a plan and I knew what I wanted to do. Entrepreneurship is my thing. And I saw that there was a great need for it here. I connected with a family. I got basically adopted into this family. And we kind of worked out some things. I wanted to build a vocational training center in the village, and they gave me 2 acres of land to do that. And so far we have the well, and we're using it as public water well. So a lot of people from the community go there to get water. The children stop to get water when they go to and from school. There's somebody there to make sure that they can have water. And then we're going to put up public toilets. So we're still working on that, having the public toilets. Because as you know, in most of these villages, there's no indoor plumbing anywhere. And so when the diaspora goes to visit these villages and stuff, we have to do what the natives do. And not everybody's comfortable popping a squat. Can I say that?
Yes, you can. Because that's what you got to do, right? I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, very good point. And I will say, I think Ursula is a good example for all of you who are planning to go to the continent. There's a couple things, right? You will find that processes change throughout the lifetime of the process you're in. And I think that we also have to keep that in mind when it comes to having a conduit between the process and you. The people individually in between are the ones who get blamed, but they're not the ones who generally are the ones holding things up or making those changes. And I think that dovetails perfectly into the conversation with Dr. Arakana and ADDI, and what actually happened over the last 6 months. And, I wanted to, get your thoughts on this situation because, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, Ivy and I went live and we talked about the couple of live streams that we saw from folks who were upset that they were not on the path for citizenship. It had changed to residency, right? Potentially permanent residency, as I understand it. And on that live stream, what I had mentioned was when it comes to anything on the continent, I generally recommend that I wait to hear from the government themselves directly in official writing before I believe that something is coming to fruition. Now, that was without any knowledge really of what had been produced, who had communicated different things to ADDI, right? It was based on just watching those videos, which were from 2 perspectives, not the hundreds of folks that are a part of it, right? So, you know, obviously I'm always the one who would say, don't blame the person who is disseminating information, because, you know, they always, of course, that's the messenger, right? Don't shoot the messenger. That almost always happens. I don't know much about her background or ADDI, because that's not a pathway I've gone through for my citizenship and my journey on the continent. So with all that context, I'd love to hear from you. And I think we also have Lisa as well, and I can bring her on in a second just to give her thoughts as well. But Ursula, can you talk us through what was your experience prior to going? Because I know you went, but just with ADDI and this program and what you understood everything to be, so we can hear from your perspective and your lens.
Okay, so in all honesty, the first time I heard of ADDI was in February, and they were offering citizenship to Burkina Faso, and that the president had invited us, and he wanted us to come and support the country. So while I wasn't really that interested in citizenship in Burkina Faso, because I'm not one of these people collecting passports, I did definitely want to go and support. And I thought, okay, I can get a citizenship in Burkina Faso. That would be great. That, to me, that was like icing. It wasn't really my primary goal. My goal was to support the company, to help in the development in any way that I can. And if I could do this, something similar to what I did in Sierra Leone, fine, perfect. And so what I understood, and maybe because I'm a little more familiar with what goes on the continent, you just got to pack a lot of patience and understand that things don't always work the way that they do in the US. And so I can't remember whether it was specifically said or whether I just assumed it, but I figured there was some cost component. And they were having regular meetings. You know, at first they were looking at going in June, and it just couldn't happen that quickly. And I thought, well, June is the beginning of rainy season, probably not the best time to go either.
Right.
Anyhow, so when it was pushed to October, I go, oh, great, that works better for me anyhow, because that's around the time I was going to be going to Sierra Leone. Right. So they were having weekly meetings, and they were explaining things. And I understood that there was going to be some kind of cost component, and that they were going to try to keep it down, but they didn't know what the cost was yet. So they didn't say what the cost was. And it wasn't really mentioned for months. And then in late August, I want to say, when they said the cost was $500, I was like, you got to be kidding me. $500? I went for 10 days to Ghana, and that cost me about $5,000. I went to, when I did Sierra Leone last year, for 2 weeks to get the citizenship that didn't happen, you know, that was about $5,000, and that's not including airfare.
Right.
And so when people were complaining about $500, I'm saying transportation, in all honesty, Joe, we went through that $500 day one, maybe day one and a half. That $500 didn't cover nearly half the stuff that we did, covered a small fraction. So when people were complaining about the $500, I couldn't understand what the problem was. Where are you going to go? So you pay for your hotel and you pay for your airfare. But transportation, and we actually got, I think, at least 2 lunches included and at least 2 dinners. It might have been more. I kind of lost track. But we had police escort everywhere we went. We had police escort. So we felt like, and so I kind of had this running phrase every time we would just go through behind with the police escort through the signal lights. I would say, red light, what? Because we just kept blowing through those red lights with the police escort. We were not caught in traffic. The whole experience was amazing. So Sunday was the day most of us arrived, or we were scheduled to arrive. That was considered a travel day for ADDI. And the program started on Monday. But I got to be honest with you, there were some people that were complaining that ADDI wasn't there to meet them on Thursday, Friday, Saturday before. I go, wait a minute. If their event starts from the 26th and it goes through the 8th, why are you disappointed that they weren't there on the 24th, the 23rd to meet you and welcome you to the country? That's not how this works.
Good point.
My point is, you're going to find people that are going to complain no matter what you do. But on the very first day of programs, we went to the Office of the Foreign Ministry and we met with them, and they welcomed us.
I do want to stop you there before we get too deep into it, because I do want to bring Lisa on. Sorry, I know, because I know it was an amazing experience, and I do want you to share it. But I do want to bring Lisa on just so she can talk about her experience as well. And I think what I want everyone to be listening to hear is, first of all, the first thing you said was pack your patience, right?
Mhm.
Pack your patience, number one. And what I also heard underlying everything you just said is entitlement. I think a lot of us are entitled when it comes to the continent of Africa. The expectation is that things should be given to us. And yes, I understand that a lot has happened and there's a lot of trauma. But countries are countries and they have systems and services and processes, and they just can't just start giving things out to people. There are processes. So with that, I do want to bring Lisa on though, so she can explain maybe what her experience was like. And I haven't gotten a chance to meet Lisa yet. So I want to thank you, obviously, Ursula, for bringing her into this discussion. So hello, Lisa. Nice to meet you.
Hello there. Nice to meet you as well.
Okay, so you all obviously also went on this trip. Before we get into your experience on the trip, I do want to hear about your experience with ADDI and leading up to the trip. Just from another perspective, we got Ursula's perspective, and then a few weeks ago, I played another video where we had two people's perspective. Well, actually, we talked about that video. We didn't play that video, where we had two people's perspective on that too. What was your experience? And also, actually, let's start with this. Your background. Have you been to the continent of Africa before? What is your relationship to the continent, and then also getting into ADDI and this trip to Burkina Faso?
Well, my experience and my connection to the continent is I love history. So
Okay.
I started in Israel, went down to Jordan, started hanging out in Egypt, and then, like Ursula, my cousin, had mentioned, opportunity came in. Let's go to Sierra Leone. Fell in love with the people. I love those people. I love Sierra Leone. The other challenges she already mentioned are like, but the people,
yeah,
they have my heart. And so regarding ADDI, I knew of them because I was watching Dr. Arikana for about 5 or 6 years. And I had one of her books. So I knew she was a straight shooter. I knew her history. I knew she was a high level authority, and what she says she means. And so the moment she said, hey, we're going to bring some people, I'm like, told my cousins, I said, I can vouch for her. She's on it. I've been watching her for a while. Straight shooter, no chase. She's going to do what she says, and she's a visionary. Now, I know there were some other things said about, Wakanda and stuff like that she was trying to bring to fruition, but she's a visionary. And so visionaries have a vision, and people that understand get in line, build that thing up and make it happen. And she did that thing.
Yeah. So, and I want to mention that, there are a lot of people with big dreams and goals on the continent. And, there are people across the spectrum, right? People who are there to pretend like they're doing something, and people who actually are doing things, right? And regardless of what may have happened with Wakanda, because I don't know what happened there. Okay, and the same thing with obviously with Akon City, right? We find that people have a lot of ideas and they run into challenges. But this trip happened, right? This ADDI trip to Burkina Faso happened. And from what I understand, the former president of South Africa, Zuma, was there. He sang to you all, which I'll play some of that in a little bit. Twice. Okay, I didn't know he was a singer.
Oh yeah.
And Ibrahim Traoré, as you guys saw in the thumbnail, also showed up. So let's talk through the trip itself, like the format of the trip, how many days. Ursula, you started talking a little bit about the police escorts, the fact that you only paid $500, but the cost of the trip itself obviously was multiple times more than that 500. That usually covers a couple of days at an Airbnb or a hotel, generally in any other country. So let's talk through what that trip was like. If Ursula, can you talk us through like the structure of it and what your experience was?
So as I was saying earlier, we went to the foreign ministry, the office of the foreign ministry on our first day, and we just felt welcomed. So basically it was designed to have Pan-African conversations and meet with government officials and get a feel for the land, do some historic and cultural things there, the history of the continent, the history of Burkina Faso. So it was educational, it was cultural, and it was innovative. It was energizing. It was exhilarating. We had some amazing speakers. We had Brigadier General, he's the ambassador from, is it Trinidad and Tobago? He's the ambassador for Nigeria from Trinidad and Tobago. And he was there and he spoke to us several times, General Williams. And then we had Reverend Joshua Mukongo, who is just, what's the word you would use, Lisa? He just energized the room, and he had so much information, and by the time he was done, you felt like I could rule the world. So Pan-African conversations, and that's when President Zuma was there, who he came and spoke to us twice. After the first time he came and spoke to us, he came back again to say goodbye, and he sang and danced with us, and he was such an amazing speaker. We had lots of people from the government to come and tell us about Burkina Faso and all the things there. And then on the second week, it was more where we had the business and trade show. So we had people from the business community to come and speak to us. So we actually went back to the Department of Foreign Ministry, which we actually went to their building. I want to say no fewer than 4 times. I can't even remember how many, but no fewer than 4 times. And we had different real estate people come and present to us. We had somebody from the public sector, the government housing, somebody from the private sector. Then they had several real estate agents to come and promote different real estate development. So they're really doing a lot of construction there. So we had somebody from the banking industry. We had other people from investment industry. So they tried to be honest with you, they tried to get way too much into too little time, but it was just more and more for us. And so I'm actually absolutely amazed at how much they were able to get into those 2 short weeks. And really it was 12 days because 2 of the 14 days were travel days.
Right.
They were absolute miracle workers. So yeah, we did have to go through a lot of the government things. They wanted information in one format, and when that wasn't working quickly enough or efficiently enough, then they wanted it a different way. So we did have to go through some things like that. But what did I say? Pack your patience and just go with the process. There's no need to stress over it. It was like, okay, if this is what they want, this is what we give them. They asking for something different, okay, that's what we give them. There's no need in arguing or discussing. It is what it is. And that's something we just had to learn. But when you juxtapose that to what we saw in Sierra Leone, we never got one call, not one person from the government ever invited us, ever made any kind of contact with us when we were here for 2 weeks. And so it was definitely a big difference. And everything that Dr. Arikana promised, she delivered that plus more.
That's good to hear. So
that was my thought.
Yeah. And by the way, that's the question that people had been having, right? That had been the question on the internet for the previous 5 weeks, right? So so for you, Lisa, obviously you've been to Sierra Leone, you've also been to Egypt and other parts of the continent. What did you see when you got to Ouagadougou or even Burkina Faso in general? I have never been, right? So how did you see what was going on with the country in general, the construction, etc., versus what you've seen in other places, and in particular, let's say Sierra Leone, since they're both in West Africa?
Well, unlike Ursula, she's the adventurer.
Yeah.
She went on an adventure and showed us where she was hanging out with the crocodiles. Let's just say. So I didn't go as far as Ursula, but I'm following behind her, right? So
okay.
But I kind of went through the city. A friend of mine, we just got in a cab and started touring around, and it's similar in some ways like Sierra Leone, but the roads are there. the street lights are there, what you're used to in America. There's a area where the those that drive the motorbikes, sometimes and not sometimes, but it was orderly. They had a particular store. What I was amazed, it was called a Zia Market, and it was similar to like a Target, except it didn't have clothes, but it had home goods. It was 4 levels. It had food. I was like, wow, it had wine and beer and snacks. I was taking videos, and then I was told I couldn't do that. I said, oh, okay, because I wanted to show everybody. But I was really impressed with some of the things that I saw because I wasn't expecting it. And then even with some of the housing that they had showed us, it has potential. It has potential. It has potential. So I loved it. I loved it. I loved the people. I think most importantly, the people, the young people, they are so beautiful. Just a beautiful group of folk. And so it just made the place so lovely to me. He's rebuilding, and where he invited us to help rebuild. So who wouldn't want to be a part of that? I mean, who wouldn't want to have that type of legacy? You're invited. You're treated like royalty. You have the police in the front, the police on the side. You're 7 buses deep. You got police in the back. I mean, who gets that? Who has that kind of presence to show how important your presence is? I mean, I forgot I was Black, man. It's just like this is how Black folk roll, So I have much respect for the leadership and for the president of Burkina Faso. I can't even really download it all. I think I just got back in. I'm trying to tell my husband I really can't. I just have to show videos. I can't say any. I really can't.
I get it. And I'm happy to hear that. And for those of you who are just joining, because there are people that are just jumping on now, we are talking to Lisa and Ursula about their experience in Burkina Faso with ADDI just recently. Ursula is in Sierra Leone right now. Lisa, you're back in the States, I'm presuming, right?
Yeah, I'm in California, Northern Cal.
Northern California. You guys, you California people, right?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. So I lived in LA for 4 years. So we're just, catching up with them. We talked, for those of you who are just joining, we talked through everything from the differences between the experience working through citizenship in Sierra Leone last year. And of course, unfortunately, it doesn't look like passports will be handed out this year. That is TBD, but we'll find out in the next month. And what that experience was like. And we talked a little bit about the idea of, I said it, entitlement. And so that was my word. That was not Ursula's word. But I do think it's important to call that out, because there are a lot of people who expect to get citizenship in Africa, and they expect that is all done for free. Like, they'll go to the continent, everything is free. And that is just unrealistic. And then also, Lisa, of course, expressed the fact that you can be a part of the legacy of rebuilding Burkina Faso, moving away from its imperialistic background and changing in this new direction. So, Ursula, you have been the explorer, according to Lisa, right? And so, yes. You've been around the continent, right? So, what have you seen? And I used to do a live stream with someone who lives in Burkina Faso. She's a Nigerian American who lives in Burkina Faso now, and she used to tell me about how educated the people were about African history and how educated they were about current politics around the continent. And so she would see that in her everyday conversations, but she would always talk about how happy people were that Ibrahim Traoré is in office now. What do you see as a difference in Burkina Faso being there versus some of the other countries you've been to, right? Because you've been to Ghana, Sierra Leone, you've been all over Southern Africa. What have you seen as some of the differences there in Burkina Faso versus some of the other places you've been?
So, in all honesty, I talked to a few people, but we really didn't talk about stuff like that. The language barrier, my French isn't very good, but I practiced quite a bit.
Okay.
It got better in those 2 weeks. And it was more me asking questions about things that they do in their everyday lives. And I talked to a couple of young people that were interested in entrepreneurship. And but the young folks, a lot of them did speak English.
Okay.
Just sometimes when you try to talk business to somebody that's speaking a foreign language, it's not always the best.
Sure.
But from what I can see, the young people seem to be, well, overall, people in Burkina Faso, it seemed to be less, I don't know what the word is that I want to use, but there are a lot more street vendors in Sierra Leone, right in Freetown in the city. And even when we went out into the provinces, then I noticed when I went to Burkina Faso, like Lisa said, I went out to see the crocodiles, about 45 meters, 45 kilometers, approximately 30 miles, give or take, from from Ouagadougou.
Yeah.
And so that meant that I went through some of the other towns and stuff. And like on the side of the roads, when you go to the provinces in Sierra Leone, you see vendors, people selling, all their stuff. I didn't see that as much. It was only in the city centers that I saw it. Like we would stop through an area and you could tell this is a populated area. It seemed to be a bit more desperation in Sierra Leone than there was in Burkina Faso. That might be the word that I'm looking for. I think the struggle seems to be more here. And I don't know if that has to do with, Sierra Leone was in that war for, what is it?
10 years.
They've only been, it's only been what, 10, 15 years since.
It's been 20 years,
the war.
20 years. But
it
doesn't feel like
20.
It doesn't feel like it. Doesn't feel like it, but yeah, till 2004 about. Yeah.
The city seemed more advanced. There were more high rises, a lot more construction. You see all these different buildings that are being built, both residential and commercial. We went out and did a tour of at least 3 of them where they're building homes. And so we could buy, and they, gave us the opportunity to buy and put down payments and whatever there. And you just don't see that kind of building in Sierra Leone. As you know, in Sierra Leone, if you want something, you have to build it yourself. So when I mentioned earlier that when before I came to Sierra Leone, I had this whole plan of what I was going to do. And I came here and found there was no infrastructure, that if I wanted to do that, I had to build it myself.
Yeah.
And so, but you see things are being built in Burkina Faso, right there in Ouagadougou. And from the brochures and stuff they gave us, it's not just Ouagadougou that they're building. There was stuff in Bobo Dioulasso, and there was some other names, and I can't remember all the names of the cities, but they had different areas of the country where they were building. So if you were interested in buying something, not just in Ouagadougou, you had options, and you're not going to find that here in Sierra Leone.
That's a good point. I think you're the perfect person to talk about the two, because you're not just complaining, you're doing something, right? So I'm always appreciative of the approach that you take, because I try to take that same approach. It's difficult, but I try my best, because look, at the end of the day, we can't change it unless we're all doing the things that we're doing right now, right?
Exactly.
So with that, I do want to talk a little bit about some of the investment opportunities that were mentioned and some of the real estate that you saw. Can you talk through what those discussions were like? And can you compare that to what it was like in those Sierra Leone citizenship discussions? Because I've sat in on maybe a couple of sessions. Was it 2 years ago? 2023. I sat in on a couple of sessions, and I kind of heard a little bit about what is being presented in terms of investment opportunities for land, et cetera. But I didn't get a chance to hear a ton of it. So you, as someone who's gone through the full process in both countries, what did you hear? Let's start with, what did you hear as the opportunities in Burkina Faso? And then I'll also ask you the same question, Lisa, after Ursula's done, and then we'll come back to the comparison. So let's just start. What were the opportunities that you saw? I'd love to hear all of them. Like, what did they present to you? What were the opportunities? What seemed interesting? All of that.
Okay, so there were multiple real estate developments, and you can get your choice. And they were basically asking for you to put 30% down, and you had to pay off the balance in either 3 years or 5 years. And you could get it at as low as 5% interest is what we were being offered. So that was really, really good. And that was pretty much all the housing development that they presented to us overall. And they had lots of different options. We have, the opportunity for banking.
Okay.
To make it easy for us to, a bank that's in both the U.S. and all across the continent. It's a bank that's owned by a Nigerian bank. So that was good that we had an African bank that was presenting to us. There were some investment opportunities for some people that presented. And I don't know this for a fact, but I'm suspecting that some of the people that presented their investment opportunities to us were the people that sponsored some of our trip, because that trip had to be paid for somehow and we didn't pay for it. So I suspect that some of the people that brought some of these investment opportunities to us were the ones that sponsored it. But so there, I didn't get that in Sierra Leone, so there's no comparison because we didn't get it.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Lisa, I'll leave it at that. Lisa, what did you see in terms of these real estate opportunities and what they offered? How did you see them, and what was interesting to you?
What I loved was the options that were giving to us. They had some houses starting at around, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like 25,000 and up, Ursula.
Really? Right around there.
Right around there. And for 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and then some going into over 100,000. You also had, there is opportunities for those that want to work in agriculture, getting land and possibly building a house on the land that you're going to be working. I love those opportunities. I'm really interested in health and herbal medicine, holistic medicine, and that's in line with what the country wants to do as well. So, I mean, and then another thing, just to have an opportunity to invest in gold. I mean, who gets those types of options and you're Black? I mean, who gets an option to be able to pay off a house that may cost $25,000 or $35,000 and pay it off in 2 or 3 years and you're debt free? Who has those options? I don't have those working here in the United States. So
very true. Yeah, I mean, I'm so happy to hear that, and I think what was interesting too is that it didn't require you to be a citizen to buy and open the bank accounts as well, right? Because in many other countries it does require you to be a citizen or at the very least a resident, but there had those conversations are had separately, right? You have to get that first, then you can talk about getting a bank account, which I did in Sierra Leone. Please, Lisa.
That right there, we had a wonderful opportunity, whereas we're not necessarily sure if the next people behind us get these opportunities. I mean, we would have had certain things waived for us. So this wasn't for the faint of heart to believe in what we were going to. And so when the president says, I spoke with the ambassador and we're going to waive a few things. I mean, we just went off. We just was like, yes. So
yeah, can we talk about those things that were waived, right? So I have the FOMO in this situation because I really wish I could have gone, but day job duties here in the United States makes it challenging for me, so I don't get to go on these trips. But I'd love to hear what was waived, right? So you've gone through this process of starting the residency program. Can we talk through what that was? Like, what was waived? What did you guys get? What was the outcome, I guess is my question, of this process?
So first of all, to become a permanent resident, they typically have 5 years you have to be there to get permanent residency. So those 5 years were waived to get permanent residency. So we didn't have to do that. The second thing is, and the president told us this himself, that the financial component to becoming a citizen, that he was going to waive that as well. It was $40, but that's $40 we didn't have to pay. Right. And so we are getting permanent residency. We submitted all the paperwork, they're processing it. You can imagine over 700 people there and in 2 weeks and trying to get all this residency. So they're still working out how they're going to get your permanent residence card to each person. But when the president stood there and said, this is what he's offering us, and he's waiving the fee, then I have no doubt we're going to get those cards. That's not even a question in my mind. And we had the ambassador for Burkina Faso from the US. He was the one that was giving us the e-visa and processing everything. And he was there almost every single day when we were doing things, and he spoke to us. And he was even speaking to us on those calls, on those meetings. He is the ambassador for Burkina Faso. And so when people were saying that, oh, we don't know if this is true and she doesn't know, how do we know she even knows? You have the ambassador from the country. And it's my understanding some relations to the president. I'm not sure. I just heard a few people said that he said it on the call, but if he did, I missed it. But he was telling us, here's what's going to happen. So they changed it from citizenship to permanent residence. But what difference does it make if you're getting all the same benefit or most of the same benefit? I think they said the only difference was that we couldn't vote. Other than that, we would have all the benefits of being a citizen.
Right.
But all of it is going to depend on your reason. What's your reason? What's your why? Why do you want this? If you want it just so you can collect a passport, then yeah, you're going to be upset. You're not going to be happy. If your ultimate goal is to support the country, to support what they're doing, does it matter whether you're a citizen or a permanent resident? And if citizenship is what you really want, then it won't matter that it's going to take you now 5 years or whatever time frame they set up for you to be citizen. Maybe it's 1 year, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10. I don't know what it is. But if your ultimate goal is to support the country, does it matter?
100%. I like that. I like that approach. And yeah, I mean, look, and at the end of the day, there isn't an election for at least 5 years anyway, right? They've already decided earlier this year, I think it was January of this year, that Ibrahim Traoré will be in power for at least another 5 years, right? That was the, and then he said that at that point in time, he would potentially open it up for a democratic election, depending on who might be making themselves available to that. So that's the only difference. If voting is the only difference and there's nothing happening for 5 years anyway, what do you think? What does it matter? Unless you're collecting passports, right? So that you can, you can show them in your YouTube or Instagram videos. Okay. So
can I say this? Can I say this?
Please. Yes.
The government was working tirelessly to try to get our paperwork through. There was over 700 of us.
Yep.
And we were pivoting on a dime. The moment they said, we need this, we were pivoting. I mean, we were working at 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to get things printed, adding it to a link, trying to upload things. But the government, so the $40 in my mind, I don't know what that was for, but these people worked without pay. They had to have. Because they love their country, they love their president, and they were helping us. It was a collaboration. It was 2 groups of people working together, from the staff, the people. I mean, it was the Black Justice League coming together on the continent. I don't know, but I've never seen anyone work as hard, and they were working long hours to help us. And even when we left, they were still working. Who does that? I mean, and for $40 here, we know that would have been a lot of money, of money. And so who knows what it might be next time? But like Ursula said, there's really no need to complain. I mean, there's no reason to. It's seek to understand and then to be understood. Seek to understand how things work and then be understood later. Like you're mentioning, we do come with some entitlement issues because we have some trauma. And I was apologizing profusely because I was getting a little irritated, and then they would explain it to me through Google Translate. I said, I'm so sorry. And I had to give them some money. I want them to smile like, oh, these Americans. But I tell you, I've never seen anything like that before. I just haven't, and I'm 6 years old.
Wow.
I've never seen such kindness.
No, I mean this.
And
I mean this is really helpful, and I appreciate you too. Being so candid. And just you said 700 people, right? Were there about 700 people? Is that the number?
Yeah.
So waiving those $40 fees is $28,000 they could have made, right? So I think it's really important for people to understand. I mean, and look, I've seen a lot of programs on the continent in my purview, what I do here with this platform, and there's a lot of complaints about what these programs are meant to do. Right. I hear a lot of people talking about these programs pull on people's heartstrings, but really it's to fill up the pockets of the people who are there. And obviously that's not Burkina Faso's goal and their mission. It really is Pan-Africanism. Right. And you can see it based on the $28,000 in fees that they got rid of, the other fees that they talked about removing in this process. And if I'm being honest, just being honest, when it comes to citizenship, there's a process that you kind of have to do to vet people, right? To allow people to become citizens of your country. And once I think the number got to 700, because not everybody is gonna be great representatives, right? I mean, with every group, there's always a few, right? So it was actually smart for them as a government to maybe pivot and say, you guys can get residency, and then we'll do more checks, get to know you over time before you make you a citizen of our country. That's probably the smart thing to do, to be honest with you.
It really is, and I thought that too.
Yeah.
But they did ask us shortly before we left. They said, yeah, we're going to need y'all to have a mental health certificate. We're going to need a doctor to certify that you are safe
and healthy. Physically fit.
Yeah, well, that's fair too. So beyond that, so you guys got a chance to hear about the history. Obviously, did you guys get a chance to see the Thomas Sankara museum?
Yes.
How was that?
Man.
It was intense, I'd say. And, we walked through the garden that they made and I was really impressed by that garden.
Yeah.
Where they use upcycled all kinds of
metal
throwaway products that, and like bicycles and motorcycles and old things. And they use to make beautiful art in the garden to depict the history of Burkina Faso. And I really, really like that. In the wall so I was trying to practice my French and translate everything that was written on the walls in French. And we kind of did okay. Had to pull out that translator from time to time. But it was, for me, it was inspiring, but it was intense.
Sure. I can imagine. Yeah, I don't speak French. So I haven't been to any of the Francophone countries as of yet on the continent. So it's, Burkina Faso is definitely on the list. I'd love to go the next time ADDI does do something, because obviously this trip, it was obviously a impactful experience for the two of you. I would imagine the other 698 would say the same. Anything else you guys want to mention about this trip that I haven't asked you about that you want people to know that they may not already know from, seeing Dr. Arikana's page or from what's been discussed so far in this conversation?
Well, her organization is made up of volunteers, and those volunteers worked, as Lisa said, tirelessly. They were up early, and they got up early and stayed up late. I'm going to assume they had to, because the 700 people can be needy.
Yep.
And so 700 people needing something from you, and you're a group of volunteers. But the small group and the leadership, plus some of the participants that were volunteers, these people did an amazing job. They made that trip memorable for all of us. There were people that would see something that needed to get done. And this is truly why I love our people. They just stepped in and said, I'm going to do it. It needs to be done. Let me just step in and do it. And then if somebody tells me not to or to stop, then I will. But until then, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to do it. Here's what needs to be done. And so between the leadership that was volunteering, and the participants, the other guests that were or prospective residents, let's go prospective residents that were volunteering, things just got done. Sometimes it wasn't always the most efficient, but it got done. Everything that needed to get done got done. And as I said, that patience can go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything to add, Lisa, to that?
Oh man, I have a lot to add, but I won't. But like she said, though, you know, Dr. Arikana would always say, you don't have to like each other, but you have to work together. And there was times where I was having a fit. I was I was having a little fit, and then I had to come back to earth, and just pivot on that dime. And there was people there to help you through it. And I mean, we are an amazing group of people. We really are. And the talents that we have, and like Ursula was saying, just getting where you fit in and make it happen, and the skill that you have, and bring that to the table. And so the people that were volunteer were, holding up the arms of the leadership, and the leadership was giving us the announcement, and the visionary was just, she was there or she wasn't there. And if she wasn't there, you saw when she was coming and why she wasn't there. I mean, everything made sense. You just have to sit back and trust the process. Just trust the process, because we got over that finish line and we acted a fool when we saw our president.
Yes, we did.
We acted a fool.
So can we talk about that? When did he come in? How did it happen?
5 minutes or something. We wasn't going to let him sit down. It was great.
Okay.
I know. He
so
walked
when
in.
Did it happen? And how did it happen? Walk us through that. So Ibrahim Traoré, the man himself, walked in. When did it happen? How did it happen? You guys were there for 12 days, right? So what was that experience like? What was there a gathering? Did you know he was coming? Like, just paint the picture for us.
Tell him, Ursula.
So the night before, they told us, be on the bus at 6 o'clock. We're going to an undisclosed location. This was our last full day there on that Friday. So that was day 13. Be on the bus and be on time. Whatever they said, we're going to pull up at 6 o'clock. You can start loading at 6. We're leaving at 6:20 or 6:30 or whatever it was. No, it was 6:45, whatever it was. But anyhow, I get to the bus at 6:10. Somebody said, oh no, the bus was full at 5:50. So they had buses leaving from different hotels. And one of the ADDI leaders said, well, you could stand up. Okay. And we just ran and got on that bus and we stood up. Another bus did come, but anyhow, we were willing to stand up. We didn't know where we were going. So all the buses from all the different hotels, we met at the office of the foreign ministry. We still didn't know where we were going, but we figured we were going to go meet the president. So I stood up because I was on the first bus and I wanted to make sure I was going to be the first one out of that bus and one of the first ones in there so I could be really close. So I stood up on that bus. I didn't go get on one of the other buses to have a seat.
Okay.
So we all filed into this room and they said, okay, no pictures, no videos. So only the government photographers and videographers were allowed to take pictures and videos, the rest of us. So we were sitting there and I got up real close to the front. I was in the third row. And we sat there for maybe about an hour or so before he walked in. And when he walked in, the entire room exploded. We were just, all the other dignitaries and everybody else was seated and we stood on our feet and we yelled and we screamed and we clapped and we yelled and we screamed and we clapped. And he had this big Kool-Aid grin on his face. Somebody said he looks younger. I said, you'd look younger too if you smiled like that.
Yeah, I mean, so just I want to illustrate. Here's the picture here. I see that you pointed yourself out there, Ursula.
Yep, that's me with that red arrow.
Here,
I was pretty close.
She was close.
You were actually very close.
And Lisa was right next to me.
Okay, so you're over here in this area. Well, that's awesome. We are limited on time, and I really do appreciate the two of you joining again on short notice. It was awesome to hear this experience and hear this story. I am so glad that this experience happened for you all, and I'm looking forward to my own. There are a lot of questions about whether or not this is going to be offered to other people. If you guys don't know the answer, where can you go to get this? Is the ADDI website, I guess, or what's the yeah.
Who's the other people? What people?
It's
Like
our
anybody who wasn't there,
ADDI.org.
like the 700 who were there got, you know, residency and the process is ongoing. What about people who weren't there who are looking to get residency? The question is that. So I'm guessing
that's
you
April.
just.
That's
our ADDI.org.
Yeah, that was mentioned previously. Dr. Arakana submitted a proposal for us to come. And so the first date was when we came, and then there's another date to be disclosed in April because my husband's going then. So, you know, if people want to get on this train,
our ADDI.com.
ADDI, become a member. .org, and get ready because the next go round, which was already approved by the government, is to be for April. So I already told my husband to, go. I'll hold it down, but I don't know. I might show up just to help.
I love that. Well, I want to thank you two again, and all of you who joined and are watching live. If you have any questions for these two, put them in the comments below. I'll share them with Ursula and Lisa, and they'll be able to get back to you if they have the answers. If they don't, it's ouraddi.org. You want to go there and ask the people at ADDI directly, and they'll answer those questions. If you want to support Empower Sierra Leone Foundation, where can they find you, Ursula?
At empowerherslf.org.
All right. And Lisa, do you have anything you want to plug before we go?
Not at this time, but I'll be plugging something soon. I'm following after my sister.
Okay, sounds good. Well, and if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, comment, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you're notified every time a new video comes out. We're at 36K. We're trying to get to 50 in the next 4 months so we can get these messages out to more people, and continue to follow on all the other platforms. We want to get to 1 million across everything in the next 3 months. So if you guys can help us do that, we'll make sure that we're going to do something special for everyone if we get to 1 million across everything. We're at 860 or something thousand across all platforms. So help us get there. And I got something interesting coming, so I'll make that announcement soon. All right, so thank you two again. Thank you all for watching, and I will be back on sometime later this week with a live stream about the news across the continent, and we will do something as a follow-up to this discussion coming soon. So thanks again, everyone. We will see you all on the next live stream. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Joe. Bye.